Welcome to the Personal Trainer Hustle. Personal Trainer Hustle. If you didn't know, you do now.
Welcome back to the Personal Trainer Hustle. You guys, make sure you are following me at Personal Trainer Hustle on Instagram. If you have not done that yet, feel free to send me a DM. Maybe you can even send me a question on there, and we might turn it into an episode just from there. That's what we did on the previous episode. So make sure to follow me. Today, we have a Q&A episode sent in all the way from South Africa. So we have a question coming in from South Africa, and we're going to be talking about building muscle, building confidence, and becoming a successful salesperson. So I've got a few things that we're going to talk about. When it comes to selling, training, it takes time, it takes learning, and it's not something that we can cover everything about in one episode. But hopefully I can give you some advice, some tips, and some strategies here based on the question that was sent in today by listener Kobus or Kobus. I apologize if I'm not saying that correctly. But you guys, if you guys have your own questions, you can DM them to me on Instagram, or you can go to personaltrainerhustle.com and you can very well just fill in the question box there, and I will get that and turn it into a question. That is what this person did. They went to personaltrainerhustle.com. They sent their question in, and now we are getting a response on the podcast here from myself. All right, so here's the question. Kobus du Pluy. I hope that's how you say it. All the way from South Africa. Thank you for all the information on your podcast. I'm almost about to qualify, but I have a slender build, and he's also 27 years old. Should I aim to become bigger for sales and confidence for the sales part? I'm very introverted. Okay, so very simple question. You are introverted and you want to have confidence for sales. Okay. Number one, when it says, should I get bigger? Well, no, number one, thank you for sending this question in, and thank you for listening to somebody so far away. So that's always cool. I love when you guys tell me where you're sending your questions in, because it just lets me know, where the podcast is reaching, how many trainers in different places that we're able to make an impact via Personal Trainer Hustle. So that's great news there. Now, the question is, number one, we're going to take it a little bit at a time. Should you get bigger for sales? My answer is you should probably get bigger for everything. Okay. And what I mean by that is, in life, you're going to get a lot of benefits from doing something difficult, and you're going to get a lot of benefits and knowledge and awareness about life through the process of getting in shape. Okay. Getting in shape, getting in good shape, changing your physique, changing your health, your fitness to whatever degree you change it, right? Whether it's muscle, whether it's losing body fat, whether it's running a marathon, whatever it is, I'm a big believer that the way that you do one thing is how you're going to do everything. And the things that you learn in mastering one thing are going to be the things that you need when it comes to mastering other things, right? And so, more importantly, getting big for confidence, the reason why I would say yes, if you can get in better shape, add some weight, I would say that more than anything for yourself, your confidence, yes, in sales, but your confidence in everything. And really, the bigger picture here is your confidence in your ability to stay determined, your ability to hit your goals, your ability to visualize something and make it come through your actions, right? That is the bigger, more important lesson that you're going to learn, right? And once you find out how to achieve success in one area, it's going to be easier for you, or at least it should be in theory, for you to achieve what you want in other areas. And so in fitness, it's a very great thing to do that, because it's going to let you know how life works, right? So let's talk about that, right? How are you going to get big? Well, number one, you're going to have to get educated, right? How much should you eat? How many reps should you do? How much weight should you add? So you're going to have to get education. The bigger and bigger you get, you're going to have to make adjustments. But the other thing is you're probably going to have to overcome certain situations. Maybe some days your shoulder might be bugging you. Sometimes, maybe you're not increasing muscle in certain areas. So you're going to have challenges. You're going to have to figure that out, right? Another thing is you're going to have to learn what it feels like to do something over and over and over again and to not see a result when you wish you were seeing it, which is a huge, huge lesson in life, right? When you develop muscle, when you're trying to get bigger and stronger, when you work out once, tomorrow you're going to wake up and you look exactly the same. And you work out again and you look exactly the same. And you're going to do this for days and days, weeks and weeks, months and months, and you may not see a significant change. But if you do not quit, if you keep learning, if you keep adjusting, and you never stop growing, eventually one day you'll look back and you will not even realize how it is that you got in such great shape, right? But again, it's going to come through consistency, through learning, through application, to dedication, through grit, right? Through patience over time, through consistency over time, right? So all of these elements that you're going to learn in working out are what's going to give you the knowledge, the awareness, the wisdom, and the confidence to be able to conquer other things. So for me, it's not really because you need the muscles to sell, because you don't. Okay. I've sold training in shape and out of shape. Okay. I've met trainers. I talked about one not too long ago from about 15 years ago. Skinny kid, knew how to sell training. And I've seen trainers that are in great shape that cannot sell personal training. Okay. So when I say that I do suggest that you get in better shape and that you do dedicate yourself to gaining muscle, I'm not saying it because that's what you need to sell, because you don't, right? It's going to help, but you don't need it, right? Sales is a different skill. And we're going to talk about today a little bit how it's a different skill, but you should commit to your fitness because life is always better when you're fitter. And all the lessons that you have to learn in order to achieve those things are the same things you're going to have to lean on to achieve your sales goals and other aspects of your career as well. So to answer that question, of course, I would suggest you gain some muscle. It's going to feel great. It's going to feel different, but that's going to take time. And so, you may not get to where you wish you were by the time you're already training, by the time you're already selling training. So, it's not the most important thing, but you definitely need to do that for yourself because it's going to help you. You said you're introverted. Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit as well. You're introverted. I'm introverted. Okay. This is the thing that a lot of introverted people don't realize about sometimes other people in their world, right? And not just introverted people. This is a human condition, right? This is a very, very important thing to learn here. In my experience, my estimation, in the few years of wisdom that I have on this planet, what I think I have noticed is that the biggest issue that we have with ideas like being introverted is that we other ourselves and we think we're the only ones. And we think that it's a handicap. And we think that that's just the way we are. And what we don't realize is that you are not a victim of whatever it is that you have about your personality or your way of being, right? What we don't realize is, and I've said this before, right? You may say you're an introvert, but are you assuming that I am not an introvert? Are you assuming that the person that is the manager of the gym is not an introvert? Are you assuming that the best trainer that you've ever met in your life, the most successful trainer that you've ever met, are you assuming that they are not an introvert and that's how they got ahead? Right? Because we don't ask questions, because we just look to our own lives, we victimize ourselves. We think that we're so unique in our problems, right? And that's a bigger issue that I think we have in society, right? We think that if I feel sad a day, that's not normal. We all feel sad. We all feel happy. We all feel joy. We all feel down. We all feel scared. We all feel doubtful. We all feel levels of anxiety, right? So what happens is we think, and this is the issue with ideas like this that you have to be careful, is we think we're the only ones, that this is not normal what I must be feeling. It's not normal that I'm this way. But the reality is you are normal. The only difference is that the people that you see just take it head on. They just continue to live their lives. They continue to strive for their goals. They continue to enjoy what they can enjoy. They can continue to learn where they can learn. They do not succumb to these ideas and just say this is the way it is. No matter what they're going through, some people that you see, they're just willing to go beyond the excuse or beyond the issue that they may have. So I'm just saying that to say that yes, you are introverted, as many successful people are, right? I'm a pretty introverted person myself, so I can only speak for myself, right? Sean's not here today. On the last episode, he walked in towards the end, and some of you guys got to see him in the background. Sean is a very reserved and introverted person, but he is the manager at the gym, right? So I am a very introverted person. I own the gym. I do talks. I now have a podcast where I talk to a lot of you guys, right? And I interact. And you wouldn't think, that's the thing. You wouldn't think that someone like that is introverted, right? But just because you're introverted doesn't mean that you cannot develop skills, you cannot develop confidence in different ways to at least allow you to have enough I guess extroversion, if you want to call it that, to function in the world and to get along with people. Now there's different degrees, but again, I like kind of where your question was going here, because you said, I want to build confidence. And that's exactly it, man. That's going to help you feel less reserved or less introverted. It's going to help you at least manage it, because you have other things about you that are going to help you feel like, hey, I don't mind people talking to me. I don't mind people seeing me, right? For me, one of the big things that I did, aside from getting in shape when I first became a trainer, but also I read a lot. And so a lot of my confidence, dude, comes from knowing that I am a pretty well-versed person. There's areas that I'm a total idiot in, but I'm well-versed, right? I read different things. I watch different documentaries, right? It's kind of weird, but I do it, right? Like I used to make this joke, like people would maybe come over to my apartment and I would have some type of nature documentary on, or I would have some weird show that I click on about food and traveling, right? And it's stuff that it has nothing to do with who I am, but I do it to be versatile, to have just a little awareness in many different areas. And so what that did is it made me more confident. It made me not so reserved or introverted, if you want to see it that way, right? It gave me at least a little bit of boost of confidence that I could talk to more people, right? And so it's up to you, right? I could have stayed in my lane and all that I know about is fitness, and all that I do is play video games, or whatever it is that people do, right? Sometimes all people do is play video games, and then they wonder why they feel weird around people. Sometimes all people do is watch movies, they feel weird why they feel around people. Sometimes all you do is read books, and then you wonder why you feel weird when it's time to have a conversation with people. The issue is that you're allowing the way that you naturally are and your inclinations to be everything that you are, and be the only thing that you are, right? We are flexible people. You can learn so many things, right? That's why I said, if you can learn how to add muscle to your body, you're going to learn how to add other attributes to your body, because it's the same rule, right? So if you take it upon yourself to not just work out every day, but to also to be more versatile, add different things to your arsenal of a human being in general, right? If you never read about certain subjects, maybe pick up a book on one of those subjects. Maybe have one friend who's interested in something else and go try that, and pull yourself away the most comfortable way that you can, right? Because even if you're on your own, you can change the programming that you watch in order to add other elements to who you are and the type of people that you can have a connection with, or talk about things with, right? So there's still a lot that you can do to help you through being introverted, right? And so I'll tell you what I did. What I did, aside from getting in shape, is I developed a skill that a lot of people didn't have. And it gave me a lot of confidence, and it made me a lot more social. And it allowed me to be a little bit more extroverted, right? And actually, something happened even before that, right? By accident. When I was younger, I was the bass player for a short while for the church youth group that I was a part of. And so it wasn't a very long time, but I was standing in front of people. I was responsible for being on time, playing the right notes, getting through the songs, right, learning the songs. And so that took me a little bit out of my shell. It made me a little more comfortable being in front of people. I then took that, added the fitness, and then I became a personal trainer later on. And that's the point I wanted to make is what I did is I started reading about sales and psychology. And the more that I felt comfortable in that area, the more I could be confident and a little more extroverted because I was a master in that area. So what happened was, even though I was introverted in my personal life, when it came to doing a personal training consultation, an assessment, a training session, a sales of a personal training package, because I was so educated in it, because I was reading so much about it, because I was practicing it, in that element, I wasn't so introverted because I felt more comfortable. I felt in charge. I felt in control because I had the education, right? So that's my advice to you, right? Again, I am not an expert in this area, right? There's a lot of professionals that are going to help you through your quote unquote, your introversion. But for me, as somebody who likes to kind of stay to myself, be on my own, you know, a lot of the day I'm just kind of on my own, running errands, having a meeting with Sean, then getting back to whatever I'm doing, recording this, right? When I record this, I'm on my own, right? There's not a bunch of people here. I wouldn't mind if we did it in the future with more people. I've done interviews and things like that. But again, because I'm growing in my element, I feel like there's some type of control that I have. And so I feel more comfortable, right? So again, it's developing your skills in different areas, right? So I've developed the skill of speaking sometimes with you guys nonstop for 30, 45 an hour. Recently, I did an episode that was almost 2 hours. Um, that comes from investing yourself in different areas and becoming masterful in different areas. That gives you a lot of confidence, right? So it's not just the muscles. I know a lot of people that have muscles that are still introverted, that are still shy, that are still reserved, that are, that can't sell training, that can't get a date, right? And you would think, oh wow, you have muscles, but a lot of it has to do with what's going on in your head, right? What's going on in your mental state, your emotional state, your skills that you have, your confidence that you build is built in a different place. And the muscles, dude, they're just going to help with that, but they're not going to solve the problems. So I suggest that you start to diversify a little bit your knowledge of certain things, at least some type of competence or awareness in other areas. Sometimes it's changing your friends, maybe adding a friend that is closer to what you want, right? When I first became a trainer, one of the best pieces of advice that my manager gave me was he said, start hanging out with successful trainers. The issue was that I couldn't speak the language of a successful trainer because I was not a successful trainer. I didn't know how they got there. I didn't know how they behaved. I didn't know how they spoke. I didn't know what they liked. I didn't know how they thought. I didn't know anything about that. I was on the way on the other side, right? And so what happened was what was easy and natural for me was to go and hang out with the trainers that also didn't have clients. But the issue there was is that I was creating a comfort zone, and I was creating a bubble that was not going to allow me to escape it later on and grow. So I had to get a little uncomfortable. I made one friend that was successful, which allowed me to make another. And then slowly I became comfortable in that area to where I understood how they thought. I understood how they spoke. I understood how they behaved, and I developed the skills. But what did I have to do? I had to recognize that what I was doing was comfortable, and I had to get a little uncomfortable, at least a little bit, in order to begin to move my life in a different direction. And so that's what I did. I befriended Mikey, who I mentioned just a couple of episodes ago, and he was on a podcast early on in the first 10 episodes. Mikey was on one, Mike Bellini. You guys, if you guys want to follow Mike Bellini on Instagram. He's on Instagram too. Mike Bellini. He's doing his own fitness thing. But he was ahead of me, and he was like my first friend that was ahead of me. And once I got to know him, then I was introduced to Antonio, who's another great trainer. And then it was easier to meet the other trainers, and it was easier for the fitness director to notice me, and it was easier for them to put me in a position to get a promotion, which then, and the skills that I developed in selling allowed me to be able to coach other trainers, and slow and steady, I came out of my shell. But it was because I was choosing to, and not just sitting at home saying, well, I'm introverted, so that's why. You know, I'm home because I'm introverted. I don't read because I'm introverted. I don't hang out with any new people because I'm introverted. You know, I had to find a way to go beyond that and develop skills, social skills, interpersonal skills that helped me a lot in other areas. So yes, working out will help with that, but reading and changing certain things about your daily habits are also going to change um, your confidence. I guarantee you, if you've been listening to the podcast, if you're really following it from the beginning and trying to apply everything we've talked about up until now, I bet you that you're already starting to feel more confident. You're already starting to feel like you have a deeper understanding. You're already going to feel like you can do it, right? Because it's going to rub off, right? If you hear me talking about it, if you hear me explaining it, if you hear me telling my stories of how I overcame certain things, it's going to rub off, even though it's just audio and you're just there maybe driving or walking with your headphones on, but it's starting to shape the reality that you live in, right? And that's where it begins. It's going to make it easier. Now you're going to know how I talk, so maybe when you talk to the manager at your gym, you're going to have a little bit more to share because you're diverse enough in that area. So even if you're introverted, you've done some work to help you along, right? And the muscles, of course, will help with that as well. Of course they will. Okay, so what's my big piece of advice? The same piece of advice I always give. All right. Kobus, my piece of advice, and I'm saying it Kobus because I don't want to say it the probably American way, which we would say Kobus or caboose. Um, but anyway, the point is, sorry, I got distracted because I'm looking at your email again. Um, do what other people won't do, and I've said it a million times, and I'll say it again. Because you guys listening, you guys probably still haven't done it. And I'm always, if you're going to listen to this podcast, this is going to come up every few episodes. And I'm going to remind you again, I've told you to study sales from the first few episodes. You're probably still listening, still haven't done it. I've given you many different book recommendations: the E Myth book, Traction book, How to Win Friends and Influence People book, the One Page Marketing Plan, um, the Copywriter's Handbook, the Little Red Book of Sales. Um, what is the other ones that I've given you? If you're not first, you're last. Be obsessed or be average. I mean, I've mentioned books. I've mentioned books. I've mentioned authors. You can read Brian Tracy. You can read Zig Ziglar. You can read Jeffrey Gitomer. Those are just a few. There's so many. So again, are you doing the work? And you probably are not. A lot of people don't because it's hard. It's hard to do the thing that we're supposed to do, right? And so that's why it's reserved for the few. I want you to really think about this. Think about how hard it is for you to just follow the advice that I've given you guys over and over again, right? I tell you to pick up these books and then you don't. So think about that, right? Think about, why is that happening? Why is that happening? Think about whatever your reason is. Whatever your reason is, it's valid. But here's the thing. It's the exact same reason that the competition has. They all feel how you feel when I tell them this advice. They all put it off to them. So if you could be the one that can work beyond that reason, beyond that excuse, beyond that discomfort, if you could, just take a deep breath and go, you know what? Sam keeps saying that I don't buy it. So that means all the other trainers probably are doing the exact same thing I'm doing. They're just listening to him, but they're not taking action. So I'm going to have to take action so that I can be one of the few. Sam says he took action and he read. I need to do that. I need to find it in myself to stop with my reasons, stop with my excuses, stop it with I don't have time, stop it with thinking that I know what I'm doing, and finally give in and just do the thing. Because it's simple logic, you guys. This is what I'm trying to get you to understand. This is the simple logic. You will be doing the thing that is so hard for most people to do. And how do you know that it's hard for most people to do? Because you still haven't done it. That's how you know most people can't do it. It's so simple, but people can't do it, right? Because, and I think Jim Rohn, I think, said this. It was either Jim Rohn or one of those guys. Jim Rohn is another great person to listen to. Old school, but it really changed my life. But he said this. He said, The reason why this is happening to you, the reason why you haven't done it yet, it's because what's easy to do is easy not to do. And you guys, I want you guys to take that in, because that is a big life lesson there. That is one of the biggest issues that you will ever have in trying to grow your personal training career, your business, or your career in general, wherever you are. The hardest thing is that it's easy. It's actually kind of easy. But because it's easy to not do it as well. That's the catch 22 here. That's the issue. It's easy to read one book in one weekend. You could do it, but it's just as easy to not do it. It's just that simple, right? And so what's easy to do is easy not to do. And that's the issue that we find ourselves in. So really, it's up to you to have enough humility and enough discipline to say, F it, today's the day. I'm going to change the way that I'm behaving, right? I keep hearing I should listen to this. I keep hearing I should take this course. I keep hearing I should apply at this gym. I keep hearing I should leave this job, and I just can't do it. So today has to be the day, because there is no magic day. It's just a day like today. The day that your life begins to take a different trajectory is a day like today. It's just another day. It's not a Saturday. It's not a Monday. It's not a holiday. It's not a weekend. It's just today. One day, it just dawns on some people. Today is the day. Fuck it. Because it has to be today, because today will always be today. There will be no other day except today. And so today it has to happen, right? And so I'm just giving you that advice because I am going to suggest that you start studying sales, learning sales, taking sales courses, or reading sales books, or listening to sales podcasts. What's funny about your question is I actually had made a note that I was going to do a few more like sales specific podcast episodes. And then your question landed, and I was like, yeah, well, this is kind of the reminder that we need to learn sales, and that I should, be focusing a little bit more on teaching you sales over here. So look forward to that. We need to get into a little bit more sales specifics. Okay. But I'm going to give you 3 things that I need you to practice and to know. I can't give you how to be a salesperson, but I'm going to assume that you have some type of maybe manager or coach or somebody that's going to hire you on to be a salesperson. So they're going to show you some basics. Okay. This is what I need you to practice. Okay. I need you to practice your questions that you're going to ask that person in order to understand why they need training. Okay. And it's not so much that I want you to have questions, is that I need you to practice. Okay. The most important thing, if you want to be a good salesperson, is to run the play in your mind or run it with someone else. What do I mean by that? The best way for you to become a great salesperson is to practice your questions when you're driving, or when you're walking, or when you're at home in the mirror, or when you're at the gym in the office and it's empty. Just pretend like you're selling the package, right? Pretend like you're asking the questions, because you're not going to have consultations and sales fast enough to become a master quick, right? So if I told you that it's going to take you 50 times for you to finally figure out the mistake you're making, it's better if you practice some of that on your own than wait until there's something on the line, right? So if the first time you're practicing your questions is when you're sitting with that person, you're going to make mistakes or you're going to find flaws. It's better if you practice either with a friend or in your mind, practice those questions and practice what that person's going to say. So what I would do when I first started learning sales is the moment I would learn something, I would write it down and I would practice in the office. I would go and sit in the office with a sheet of paper and I would just mouth it to myself, right? I would go, okay. And I like, just like I do with you guys, right? I always say Jane or John, right? Those are the first names that pop in my head. So I would sit in the office and I would go, okay, Jane, what is your goal? Okay, what would Jane say? She's going to say, I want to lose weight. Okay. Um, what should I say next? Oh shit, I don't really have anything to say. Okay, all right, let's start over. I'm going to say, what's your goal? She's going to say, I want to lose 10 pounds. And I'm going to say, okay, how long? I'm going to ask, how long have you had this goal? Okay, perfect. I'm going to write that down. So now I got 2 questions, right? I'm walking you guys through how I would figure out my sales. Okay, here we go. All right, James, what brings you in? What's your goal? I want to lose 10 pounds. Okay, good. How long have you been trying to lose 10 pounds? Oh, I've been losing. Okay, she's going to say, I've been losing for a year. I've been losing. Okay. Ooh, she might say she already lost weight. Okay, I should keep that in mind. And I would just sit there practicing over and over again. I can't take you through the whole thing. That is the job that you now have, but you need to sit there and go through the process in your mind so you can start figuring out, what do I say? What do they say? What do I say? What do they say? What do I say? What do they say? If I was in their shoes, what would I share? What would be my goal? Why would that goal be important to me? And you start to practice your questions before you're in the real game, right? The next thing is, remember that your questions are all geared to figure out how you can help them. I've done episodes about this in the past, but just while we're here, right? Remember that you need to understand what your goal is. And this is true for selling anything. What is it that my product solves for this person? And how does it solve it? In what ways? How is it solving it better than the next product? All right. That's it. That's it. What is the problem that personal training solves for this person? And now, again, it's not just one thing, because the obvious one is that they lose weight. But that's like saying you buy an iPhone to make phone calls, right? Well, what problem does the iPhone solve for you? Well, it helps you communicate. Is that really the problem that it's solving? Why don't you then just get a regular $20 phone at a local, cheap phone company? Why don't you do that? If the problem that you want to solve is to be able to communicate, then just get any old phone. So why do people keep buying these expensive phones? Because it's not that. And so you have to think about that with your fitness. If you go, well, personal training solves the problem of weight loss, well, that's like saying that the iPhone solves the problem of communication. Weight loss can happen running on the track. Weight loss can happen at a local free boot camp. So you need to challenge yourself and go, no. And this is why it's important to read on sales, read in marketing, because it's going to walk you through how to figure this out. What you need to do as a salesperson is figure out what real personal problem this solves, right? So when you buy an iPhone, usually it's going to have some type of communal benefit to you, right? What you don't want to eventually, and some people don't care, some people do, right? But some people don't want to be the person in the text thread that has that green text versus the blue one that everyone has. So that's the problem. I'm solving a societal problem when I buy the iPhone. I am belonging to a group. I'm belonging to a tribe. That's the problem that it's solving. It's solving the problem that I have, that I am other. I am on the outside when I don't have it. And when I have it, I am on the inside. So it's not a communication issue that I'm solving when I buy the phone. It is a belonging and societal and communal issue that I'm solving. But maybe there's other features that it has. Maybe it has like airdrop, right? Where that others don't have. So again, it's community. It allows me to share information faster and just share it in a way with other people that are part of this community. So it makes it easy. It syncs up to my laptop and it makes it easier, right? So there's ease of use, there's interconnectivity, there's a social status, right? If you're always buying the newest phone of this company, everyone knows you spent $1,000. Everyone knows you spent $2,000, right? So it's kind of like driving a fancy car. Another great example, right? Driving a fancy car, if you say, oh, it solves the issue of transportation, you're not understanding. It does not solve the issue of transportation. It solves the issue of social status, right? Of comfort, of being in a different category, a different group, right? So again, maybe respect whatever it is that that person does or at least believes to get. That's what they're getting. But if you look at if you to look at a $500,000 car on the road and you're like, oh, that's for transportation, you don't understand what that person bought and why they bought it. So I'm saying that to say that when it comes to your questions, when it comes to your consultation, when it comes to you figuring out how to help somebody through fitness, you have to stop thinking that it solves the problem of weight loss. It solves the problem of getting in shape. No, the problem that personal training is going to solve for them is either going to be consistency, accountability, education, guidance, comfort, privacy, and on, right? You have to think further. And so once you do that and you figure out what is it that this person actually needs from me, they need a friend, or they need a coach, or they need the discipline that comes with having a coach. Now, when you're talking to them, you're selling them the accountability. Hey, I know that you can work out on your own, but the trainer is going to help you be consistent, because you said consistency is what you're missing in your routine, or consistency is what I think you're missing. I think as a professional, what you're missing is not knowing what to do. And right, I'm pretending to be the coach as I talk to a potential customer. So if I'm a coach, I might say something along the lines of, listen, based on what we talked about today, I don't think it's knowing what to do that you're missing. I think you know what to do. Your form is great. You know, you're eating well, or you know what you should be eating. The issue here is that you're not eating what you should be eating, and you're not going to the gym and doing what you should be doing. Even though you know what to do, I think the issue is you're not going to do it without some level of support. And so having a trainer is going to give you that support for you to achieve those goals. So don't see it as the trainer knows more than you. See it as the trainer is your friend that makes you come in and stay consistent so that you can get the benefits of good health. And so you see how I can phrase it in a way that is actually solving the real issue that that person has. Maybe let's take another issue, right? Maybe when you're talking to them, you realize they are consistent. They always go to the gym, but they're not lifting weights. They're not hitting all the movement patterns. They're not doing compound movements. They're not doing enough load. Okay, so in this issue is, listen, I think you have all the discipline and the consistency necessary for you to get the goal. The reason why I believe you're not getting your goal, and the reason why I think working with me would get you over that hurdle, is that you're consistent, but you're consistently doing things that are not moving you towards your goal. And so I think coupling your consistency with my knowledge of strength training and the body and body mechanics, if we combine your discipline and your strengths with my strengths, we can really achieve something special here, and we can get you those results that you've been trying to get when you go to the gym on your own. And I think that's why you should hire me as your personal trainer. I solved the real issue. The real issue is that they don't know, they don't have knowledge. They need a guide to teach them, not someone to hold them accountable. So this is where that conversation and becoming a good salesperson and reading the books that I tell you to read, but also listening to the advice that I'm sharing here, right? I'm trying to give you something here. I don't want to leave you without giving you something. So that's how you do it, and that's what you need to practice. And that's the bigger picture. That's what I want you to realize is practice getting to the root by practicing those questions ahead of time so that you're better prepared with good questions and that you already kind of expect where the conversation is going to go. So you're not surprised, right? Because when you're surprised, that's when everything starts to fall apart. But if you already ran through it in your head, you have a roadmap in your head, even if you deviate a little bit because they throw something from left field at you, you can still kind of manage to get back to where you want it to be because you've practiced this conversation and you want it to go a certain way. You want it to go from the goal to why the goal is important, to how long they've been wanting it, to how a trainer can help them, to showing them how you're going to do it, to them buying the training, right? You're going to take them through that whole process, but you have to practice it on your own. The more you practice it, the more you're going to feel comfortable with your questions, right? Have a list of at least 10 questions and practice them, and practice the responses, practice potential pitfalls, practice different, right? If this person is going to say, no, I don't have a goal, practice that. What are you going to say when they say that? You got to practice that so you're not surprised. Okay, that's not likely to happen, but at least I ran it in my head and I think I got some answers for that. Now, let's say they say, oh, I want to lose 100 pounds. Okay, whoa, okay, that's a big goal. How am I gonna ask my follow-up question? What information do I have to share with them? Right? You run it in your head. That's what's gonna make you great. And that's what's gonna give you that confidence, dude, is to practice, practice, practice instead of just showing up and hoping for the best. That's why everybody fails at this, is because everyone just shows up, does a few squats, a few burpees, a few mobility exercises, and hopes that that person goes, oh yeah, this is great. You're leaving it up to chance, right? You don't know if they got what they wanted out of it. You don't know if they understood what you did, right? So having a good conversation and having it practiced is going to help you work out all the kinks and have a great conversation with people where you feel confident because you're the one that's practiced it. This is the first time they're going through it, but you already ran it in your mind 20, 30, 40 times. So because you already ran it, you know where it's going. You're going to feel super confident and you're going to be able to really listen to them, right? Because that's the other issue that happens when we don't practice our questions, when we don't practice their responses, is that we can't hear what they're saying. We can't listen for those little cues because we're so stuck in our own mind trying to figure out what to ask next, trying to figure out how to solve this problem. And so now you're not hearing what they're saying. And that's the big issue that we run into when we don't practice, when we don't study, is it's all happening so fast that they may have shared a great piece of information, but you missed it because you're like, oh my gosh, how do I get back to the point? Oh, I didn't hear what they just said. And boom, you missed your opportunity and your cue to sell that package. So that's why practicing and studying is so important. The next thing I would say is you want to know your product. So this is more, again, more effort on your part, more knowledge on your part. Another place that a lot of people fail is that we don't have enough tools to help people. And that's a huge one too, right? If you don't understand fitness, if you don't understand fitness principles, if you're the type of trainer that only takes people through a bunch of burpees and mountain climbers and bench press and presses and running, that's fine. You're going to get some clients, but you're going to leave a lot on the table because you don't have all the tools necessary to help more people, right? So think about it this way. The more tools you have, it doesn't mean you use all those tools with every client. What it means is that you have more people that you can help. That's all that means, right? When you get more search, when you read more books, when you watch more videos, what that means is it's not that you have all these tools to help somebody. No, it means you have the capability to help a wider range of clients. And if you can help a wider range of clients as a personal trainer and not a specialist, then you're able to communicate and talk to different opportunities, right? Different opportunities that are going to present themselves, and you're going to be able to address that opportunity, right? So let's say you have a consultation set up. Maybe your manager says, hey, I have somebody coming in tomorrow. You got it. You take care of them tomorrow, 9 a.m. Okay, you show up. And they walk up and they're like, hey, I just had a surgery on my left knee. They told me I need to do some rehab. They told me I need to build up my glutes a little bit more so that I can start to walk. If you don't have an understanding of biomechanics, if you don't have an understanding of muscular and skeletal anatomy, well, then this situation might present itself as a very difficult situation for you to overcome. Not because you're not a great salesperson, not because you're not a great trainer, but because you haven't studied your product enough, right? So getting to know the product is one of the most important things. I actually heard, and it doesn't matter how you feel about this character, right? But I personally enjoyed the movie very, very much. But the Wolf of Wall Street, right? The actual guy, Jordan Belfort, he said that what he would do to sell is he would study the product. So he could sell anything because he would say, give me a few hours to read about the product, to understand the product, to know exactly what it does, to understand how it helps people. And now I can sell it to anyone at any point. And so that's what he would do. Right. And so I heard him say that and I was like, that makes perfect sense. Right. Instead of, because this is what most people do when they say, sell me this phone, people immediately start to talk. They go, well, this phone, it calls long distance and, blah, 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 blah. And we start talking about the phone instead of doing what he suggests, which is, okay, before I sell this phone, I'm going to need some time to study the history of the manufacturer. I need to know the history of the manufacturer. I need to know the cost. I need to know how many we sell. I need to know how far it calls, how many countries it's in. I need to know all the different features and apps on this phone. First, I'm going to study my product. I'm going to have a deep understanding. That way, when somebody sits across from me and they go, hey, I just had a surgery, they want me to develop my glute, you're going to go, yes, okay, that makes sense. Listen, the glute sits right here on this bone. This is what we call the origin, and this is the point of insertion. And so when this muscle contracts, now let me show you what a contraction is. A contraction is a shortening of the muscle, right? You can see it as like little grips pulling on themselves, and it moves the bone. Does that make sense? Okay, so if that makes sense, then knowing that the origin is here and the insertion is here, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to do this exercise to avoid the knee pain, but develop the glute. Only someone with some level of understanding of the actual product that you're selling is going to be able to have that communication with someone. So on top of learning how to sell, on top of practicing your questions and your answers, I also need you to continue to learn the product of fitness, right? Don't stop learning more and more things because, again, the more you know, the more different situations you're going to be able to overcome, which then is going to directly influence the top line, right? If you're waiting around only for weight loss people, you might miss 5 clients that have 5 different goals because all you can do is sell in one. So you might feel good. You might say, well, I sold 5 packages this month. Yes, but you're not noticing that you missed another 5 due to the lack of knowledge of your product and your service. So you're missing out. It doesn't mean you're not selling. It doesn't mean you're not good. I'm just here to try to show you that you're missing out on a lot of opportunities due to your lack of studying, lack of understanding, lack of awareness, lack of new knowledge in different aspects of fitness. So the more you know, the more you can help people, and really the more you can increase your sales. And since you're talking about being a salesperson over here, then I'm going to direct it as that. The last thing that I'm going to make sure to mention today is that I need you to study your numbers. Okay. What does that mean? You should know how much the packages are. Okay. This is logistics now. This is something that, again, a lot of trainers don't practice. We don't think about. Again, I learned this from other people. I learned this from my first, he was like, I think he was the district manager. So he was in charge of the Bally Total Fitnesses in Southern California. But I remember he gave me a talking to, and he did a presentation for me with his eyes closed. And he said, Sam, this is how you have to know your numbers. He closed his eyes, he grabbed a blank sheet of paper, and he ran through the whole presentation. He said, the 24 package is this much, break it down into 3 months. Your payments would be this much. If you opt to not do the payments, your paid in full plan would be this much. It would da 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 da. He's like, if that's not an option, you can go to option number 2. This is a 36-month, 36-session plan. This would go up to another extra month, but it would bring your daily rates or your monthly rates to this number, da 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 da. And he would do it all with his eyes closed, right? Just to prove a point, which is you gotta know your numbers. You've got to know your numbers, right? So especially when you're new, right? When you're a little more experienced, man, you get away with some stuff. It's not to say that you shouldn't do it. But Sean and I talk about it all the time over here, right? The more you know how to do it, sometimes you kind of bend the rules, you take shortcuts. I don't need to know your prices. Like if you guys handed me your prices, I would still be able to sell it even without knowing the prices. But when you are learning, and especially when you work at a company and you're building your client base, you're building your career, or when you have your own company, you need to have your prices set, you need to have your packages set, and you need to know your options. This, like I said, it's just logistical stuff that you need to understand about your job, and you need to take it as seriously as if you worked in a company where the red button blows up the company and the green one, waters the plants. You push the green button every fucking day lest you blow up the company. Okay, it's the same thing. This is what you need to know as part of your job. This package is this much. It's this much per month for this many months. This is the cancellation policy. This is the renewal policy. This is how I take your payment. This is how you know how many sessions you have. And you need to know that. Why? Again, because you need to know your service and your product for you to have confidence. This is the thing, right? The more you know about your entire process, the more you can feel confident through the whole thing, the more you're in control. If there's parts of it that you don't know, parts of it that you have to look into, parts of it that you have to hesitate, in those moments, you're going to lose confidence, and they're going to, kind of lose confidence in you as well. When they see that you don't know, when they see that you have a hesitation, when they see you have to double check, they're going to say, well, don't you do this every day? Don't you know your packages? Don't you train people? Don't you sell packages? Like, what are you doing not knowing this, right? That's what they're going to think. So you got to walk in and you have to know your plans, your packages, your payment plans, your systems, right? So when you're talking to them, because at some point, and this is more advanced, but at some point you might be talking to them and might go, well, how much is it for a 3-month plan if I want to come in 3 times a week? Oh, well, let me see. You know what? Can I show you that later? Let's just get through the consultation and then I'll show you that later. The issue is because you didn't know, you weren't ready to close the deal the moment that the opportunity presented itself, because you didn't know. But if you're prepared and you're in the middle of a conversation to go, you know what if I want to do 3 times a week? Could I do that? How much would it be? You can turn around and go, oh, absolutely. The 3 time a week program is going to be $630 something or $850 per month divided. Now you don't have to divide it. You can pay it all up front. It would be $1,600, but you could also divide it in 2. So these are the 2 numbers that it would be. It would be 3 times a week. Could you do Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8? I could. Perfect. So let's do Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8. I'll put you in my system and it would be this much to start, 850 to start, or pay the whole thing up front and you would still receive an extra 2 sessions. Which would you like to do? Oh, you know what? I'll just pay it all up front. Great, let's do that. Because I'm prepared with my numbers and my packages and my systems, I can just skip ahead and get the whole thing done with now because I know what I'm doing. And if not, at the end, if maybe I'm negotiating and something's going on, as long as I know my numbers, I can be more present in the conversation. I can actually listen and try to solve the problem. But if I'm trying to listen to the reason, oh, I got to talk to my husband, I don't know the packages. So they're asking, what can I tell them how much it is? Well, I don't know. And now there's confusion. And then they might say something where they're like, you know what, maybe I could still do it. And you don't hear that. You don't hear that they just said that because there's so much chaos going on, right? So the more you know, the more you study from beginning to end, from your questions to their potential answers to knowing the product so you have different solutions for them to figuring out what that solution actually is, and then the final part, knowing how to process that payment and put them in the system, right? Because if you work at a company, there might be some system. Knowing that system, where do you put their name, how do you fill it out, and practicing that ahead of time too if you can. Well, now you're going to be good from A to Z. You're going to be able to do this whole process, but the only way to do it is you have to run it before you have a real client in front of you, right? So if you work at a gym, you should ask your manager, hey, how do I fill out a contract? Can I practice? Do you have a practice software where I can just run a bunch of fake scenarios, right? What if somebody wants to pay it in full? What if somebody wants to make 2 payments? What if somebody wants to make 3 payments? What if somebody, wants to cancel? What do I do? Prepare ahead of time so that in the moment, nothing can shake you. And now, if you do that, then you can be fully engaged with that individual when you're trying to sell in the training. And more importantly, based on your question, this is the one word that we're going to harp on here. If you do everything we talked about today and you practice it over and over from beginning to end, this is the beauty. You will feel more confident, man. You will be more confident because you have something to base your confidence in. You're prepared. And if you're prepared, you're going to be confident. The lack of confidence comes in lack of knowledge, lack of awareness, lack of preparation, right? So when somebody says, well, I'm not confident, well, it's because you haven't done the work, right? Same thing with your muscles. Well, I'm not confident in my body. Why? Because I don't have muscles? No, because you haven't done the work to get the muscles. That's why you're not confident. That's why people, they might work out for 3 weeks. You can't see a difference, but they're already more confident. I see it all the time with the people that I've worked with in the past and the people that work out at this gym. Even before they see a result, they're already more confident. Why is that? Right? Because if you got the confidence from the muscles, you wouldn't be confident for a whole year. But why is it that people a month into weightlifting are a little more confident? Because it's the work. The work that I'm doing has given me the confidence. The small difference that I've been able to create all on my own with my own energy, with my own discipline, with my own hard work, with my own mistakes, that's what's giving me the confidence. I am confident not because I'm muscular, but because I've been doing the work. Right now, again, it's not to say the more muscular you are, you are going to be more confident, but it's the work. Same thing with sales. I was more confident not because I was a master salesperson, but because I knew one thing that the other trainers didn't know. So I would smile a little bit harder. Right. Then I learned 2 things that the other trainers didn't know. That made me want to talk to more people. It gave me the confidence to approach more people, to talk to more people because I felt prepared. I felt like, man, I kind of know what I'm doing. So let's go for it. But when you don't know what you're doing, like when I first started, the trainers, the ones that started trying to help me, they would go, oh, talk to that girl on the treadmill. I would just walk past the treadmill. I would not do it. I couldn't do it. I was so terrified because I didn't know what I was going to say. I didn't know what she was going to say. I didn't know what I was going to sell. I didn't know what questions I was going to ask. I had no idea what came next. And so, of course, when they said go talk to her, it was easy for them because they knew what they would say if they went and talked to the girl on the treadmill. I was not prepared, and therefore I had no confidence. But once I knew, I could go up to her, I could go up to the guy doing the bicep curls and go, oh man, what are you working on today? Oh, dude, you're doing pretty good. Are you hitting both sides? Are you hitting the radialis and all that stuff? And I would use different terminology at the time. And oh no, I'm not. Oh, okay, yeah, you see this muscle right here when I turn my wrist, you got to develop both, man. If not, you're not gonna fill in the bicep all the way. Oh, really? Oh, I didn't think about that, man. Yeah. And then they would say, oh, I've been thinking about doing tricep more, but I don't know how to hit the right angle because my shoulder hurt. Oh, dude, have you tried this machine? Let me show you. See, that way your shoulder doesn't hurt and you still get that tricep, so you can keep develop your tricep while your shoulder heals. Oh shit, no way, Sam. All right, man. Thanks a lot. Yeah, no problem, dude. If you're free tomorrow, we can get a workout in. But and now I'm talking. Now I'm going because I'm prepared. Because I'm prepared. I've run it in my head, right? That's why I give you guys little quick examples, right? I start talking like as if I'm in that scenario. Why do I do that? Because I've done it so many times. Because I've prepared so many times. Because I've rehearsed it so many times that the scenario just pops in my head. Because this is just a practice run, right? I'm going to practice. What happens when somebody is doing bicep curls? What could I possibly say? Well, I already practiced it. I'm not waiting until I'm standing there and somebody's doing curls in the wrong way. And I'm like, oh, what should I say? Hey, man, you're doing those wrong. What did you say? Oh, I shouldn't have said that. What did you say? Now I'm in a situation that I didn't want to find myself in because I wasn't prepared. I didn't know what I was going to say. I made it up on the spot. So prepare, prepare, prepare. The more prepared you are, the more confidence you're going to gain. The more hard work you do, hard things that you do in your life, the more prepared and the easier other things become. If you're able to transform your body, if you're able to sell, if you're able to wake up early, be at the gym early, be the last one to leave, if you can do a lot of hard things, your confidence is going to go higher and higher and higher. And people are just going to feed off that confidence, even if you're introverted, right? You may be introverted, but you're still going to be confident. Your presence is going to be confidence. Why? Because you did the work. If you do the work over and over and over again, you're going to be confident. It's just that simple. All right. So that's my advice for today. I hope Kobus to get a an update from you one of these days. Once you start working, once you build some muscle, man, feel free to send me an email or another question. Give me a little update in there just to see how you're doing, see how you've developed your sales, your body, your confidence. I would love to hear it. I know I got feedback from Oscar. Oscar, I got your other email as well. Oscar was somebody who sent in a question from the UK about preparing to get a job before he was even done with his certification. And then shortly after, Oscar, you messaged me. You said, "Hey, I already have a job lined up before I even get certified because I did what you said." So I appreciate it. I just want you to know I got that message. I know you asked me another question in there. I'm just trying to figure out. I might just message it to you because I don't know if I can do a whole episode based on your question that you asked. So that's why I've kind of left that one alone. So Oscar, if you're still listening, shout out to Oscar in the UK. I hope you're working at this point or getting ready to work. And shout out to South Africa over here as well. Give me an update as well to see how you're doing. So yeah, I've gotten some updates from some of you guys that sent questions in that also follow the Instagram account, and you guys have DM'd me about how that has helped out. So keep that going, you guys, because that's really, this isn't my business. I do this to connect with you guys, and so the more you connect, the more the whole purpose of this is lived out. My business. I'm sitting here. For those of you guys that can see, I'm sitting at my actual business. This is where I'm actually doing transactions, right? This is to have a monetary gain. People come in, they get a service, and we transact. But the podcast is a transaction of information. And so when you guys reach out, follow me on Instagram, send me a message, send me a question, send me an update, that's why we're doing it, to make sure that you guys are growing, and so we can change the personal training culture, right? Because again, I know that some of the things that I say here are not exactly what everybody says, but I believe that personal trainers, we've gotten a bad rep because we do a lot of these things that I'm always talking about, right? If you just keep doing burpees and mount climbers, you're not going to get respect. If you don't prepare, you're not going to get respect. If you don't grow in your knowledge, you're not going to get respect. And at the end of the day, you're not going to get successful at this. So I'm trying to help you guys have what I believe is better information for your career. So like I haven't said this in a while, but I always say, we're not talking about squats here because there's a lot of people teaching you squats, but we're talking about like things like today. How do you get confident in your sales? How do you prepare for your sales, right? Because that's the part that you're going to need once you know how to teach a squat. Now what? Right. And that's kind of where we're trying to take it from on the podcast. Right now, we're going to take it further, and we're going to show you some of the other parts of your career that are going to come up that are not in a book, that are not in a certification. Right. So that's why it's important for you guys to send questions in, because that way we can base the episodes on actual real things that you're living through, and not just making assumptions like a textbook has to do. Right. A textbook has to just assume that you know certain things and don't know certain things. But on the podcast, we can actually speak directly and say, hey, this is what I'm running into. This is where I need help. And we can actually talk about real life things that are happening in our personal training career. So make sure you guys send those questions. So you guys can go to personaltrainerhustle.com, send a question. I have a little tab there. Literally, that's all that's on the website. There's just a little box. You send in your question that way. But the last episode, I got a DM and I turned it into an episode. So if you guys just something pops up in your head, you can send me a DM, and maybe we can turn that into an episode as well. All right. And I'll talk to you guys soon.